Yeah, so
It's
it is
live.
recording. Hi. So this is Diana. Diana is my guest right now, and also I am your host today. And today I have very amazing guest. She's carrying more than 17 years of experience. She has started her career with IBM as an intern and a long time ago, right? And
Mm.
at that time, Facebook has started its own first branding, you can say the advertisement platform, right? And from there to here, right now, Diana is working for the brands and she is coaching SaaS companies. So today she will tell us how she is doing and tell about the experience, the framework, the magic which will be going to help you to build your own brand. So hi Diana, how are you?
Awesome. Thank you so much for the intro. Really good to speak properly, and welcome to anybody who's tuning in. Excited to have you on board, even though I can't see you. Thanks for the intro. I think it's a fantastic link to make that honestly I haven't made myself between when I started in marketing in my first sort of job. As an intern, you don't necessarily know what you're doing, but it's a job, and all the way into leading in the a department most recently, and now running my own consultancy. So, and then the Google ads started. You are right. you know um, my reflection on that is, um, when I started in B2B marketing, I was an intern at IBM. Like, oh my god, you could not imagine a more a more sort of corporate environment, really, and you couldn't imagine a more surprising version of what marketing is, because back then, and that's 17 years ago, I was still at university. It was very much, we release a thought leadership paper once a year, and then we create very expensive events for very expensive and VIP stakeholders, where we tell them about this white paper that we released. And that's all dandy. Sometimes we send them this white paper. So creativity wasn't anywhere near it, really. It was all focused on bottom of the funnel marketing. Because the assumption is everybody knows IBM and there's this implied credibility. Which is why, after, for example, being an intern there, I ended up going and working at ad agencies, because I wanted to do work that is more attention grabbing, more top of mind, brand awareness, come up with something that makes people feel things and that makes them want to talk about the brand. That was always my interest. Like, what's the insight? How do we make this clever? Right? Because you can always outspend someone if you have the money, but most companies don't. So they have to be
Right.
clever. And I'm interested in the clever, right? And so then about 5 6 years later, it brought me back into big tech, not IBM, Airbnb, out of all places. And that's not
Yeah.
a B2B brand, but I think it was 2000 and, let's say, 14-ish, where I was on the team, agency team, working with Airbnb and pitching them their first ad campaign, and then we won it, and so we had that project for a while. um, and they came in with us to tell us, hey, why are we not growing? Why are we not growing in Europe? North America was so easy, everybody knows us. Why are we not growing in Europe? And they wanted a real clever solution to that problem. They wanted to build a brand without probably knowing what that meant. But when we arrived in their offices, 90% of conversations and questions were, how do we increase the click-through rates on our Facebook ads? Right? So here I go again, right into the heart of Silicon Valley, and the conversation that's being had is very relevant to them and to the reality that we live in, but is very detached from how scientifically marketing works, right? And I can throw a bunch of studies around maybe later in the call, but I think a story is more interesting here. And so that was 20, let's say 14, 15. And then I led a marketing department at a SaaS company, and I finished a year ago after 2.5 years. And that was when, for the first time, I realized it's not just Airbnb. Everybody's making sort of the same mistake in B2B. They're running endless webinars. they're writing thought leadership papers that they pay a lot of money for. I don't blame them, because honestly, I did that too in the job that I walked into. There was a history of 10 years of thought leadership. Of course, I wasn't going to stop it. That would get me fired straight away, right? And then people send a lot of cold outreach that is basically spam, and they're like, why is nobody buying from us? So to me now, this environment of 2024 is this sort of huge moment where increasingly there are studies coming out that brand is what actually matters in B2B. And increasingly we start seeing small pockets of creativity in tech companies, SaaS companies, that are willing to invest in brand, although I do hate the word invest in there, but establish their brand and say something that's original. So it's a very exciting pathway. The Google ads are still there. They're still stealing a lot of the budget, but in my opinion, we can dig further into it if you want. That might not be the smartest way to allocate a budget that is already very much squeezed, which it is for most people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, so the thing is this, right now you have said that companies are interesting to like they are interested to invest their money in branding, but I can think and I can see the Indian startup companies, especially when it comes to SaaS, companies are not investing in creativity. They are not creating the rememberable ad. So
Mm,
do you think why it is happening in especially in the India or around the world it is happening the same, right? So why do you
mm,
think it is like that? Most of the SaaS companies are not investing in the creativity. They are just running through the profit. They are they are going to get the quick profit, right? So
yeah.
why why most of the people or the we can say the CEOs or CMOs not going for the creativity or the long term brand value or brand image creation? Why they are not
Mhm.
doing that?
Well, there's the obvious answer and then the less obvious answer. Obviously, obviously, everybody needs to prioritize short-term metrics. I've been head of marketing. I go into a meeting. I might report that we're doing this PR activation,
Mhm.
this event, but the answer is always, what are the leads? Where are the leads, right? It
Right,
almost at some point stopped mattering how good they are. You just needed to report the
right,
numbers, which is terrible, because if I was pressured into doing that, I'm pretty sure everybody else is too. And it's embarrassing to admit, but such is life if you want to keep your job. So if you
right.
the priorities of keeping your job, being employed, um, are sometimes contradictory to best practice, which is very unfortunate,
Mm,
right? So what we need is for the best practice to become widely known. So,
right.
of course, if you have a budget and you need to show where you spend every little bit of it, you're going to go and put it into performance ads, right? Because performance
Mhm.
ads will help you figure out, who could be interested, and then sales harass them to close. And I'm
Right,
using the word
right.
harass
Yeah,
very consciously. It's a provocative word, but a lot of the time, sales isn't selling. They like to think of themselves as amazing manipulators of people's subconscious and creating the needs, but a lot of the time it's pure harassment. Sorry,
right.
salespeople, but I think the most honest among you will also agree with that statement, because I know a lot of them are struggling with their own
Mm,
authenticity doing their job. So
mm,
um, what happens is, on the surface, that's good, fine. I'll spend the money. I'll give money to Google Ads, to LinkedIn performance ads, download my report, la di da di da. And then I'll have my number of leads. I'll bring it to the table, and my CEO, CFO will be like, yay, marketing's doing something. Here's the other side of it, the reality of it. We all know it's like a worst kept secret that those leads are of questionable value. The fact that somebody
mm,
downloads your report, even if you paid a lot of money to create that really pretty report, does not mean that they're ready to buy. The fact that somebody engages with your content because it appeared in their feed that day, maybe if they're consistently engaging, that's a signal, but it's not really an intent to buy. Sometimes it's really, do you want this thing, call sales? Then it might be so. In my case, what I did is I implemented sort of a health check for their payment solutions. I worked in a payments company, so plugins into a website. So think about Stripe, but in Europe for
mm,
many different currencies. Ugh. Right? There's not just euro in Scandinavia. Every country has their own, for example, right?
Mm.
So, what I did in my team was implement health check for your payment solution. So then those are performance ads that are a little bit more telling. Hey, is it even working properly for you? They go on a call with sales. Sales act as an advisor rather than a salesperson. I gave them a beautiful flow chart of what to test for, right? Like, does it have this sort of UX? Does it go into local languages, currencies, la da da da? And so at the end of half an hour conversation, sales is like, well, your checkout sort of kind of sucks a little bit because of these reasons. So maybe we want to have a conversation. Sometimes it converts, sometimes it gets parked, but that's like a fairly hot intent lead, like possibly as
Right,
hot as it gets, right? But in reality, the law of B2B marketing, it's not something I invented. LinkedIn studied it, and that's why they were like, oh shit, they're sorry for swearing. That's a law because it applies in every vertical. Maximum of only 5% of your entire industry are ever buying. And in a recession, it's maybe not 5%, it's 3. It's maybe 1, right? But
right.
let's say 3.
It is
Let's
true.
be like realistic. 3, maybe optimistic. 3. So you have this market, 3% that are maybe interested. And so every other player is bombarding these people with their
Right,
offer at the same
right.
time. You know who it's really good for? Google and LinkedIn. Because now you're bidding
Yes,
against one another
ye-
for a very small pool of people. Those are the real
right,
winners. The companies do not win because then they're suddenly in a price war because
right,
they're semi-identical solution and they're not actually winning based on appeal to the customer but based on, well, whoever just manages to please them in their offer, right, in their terms and conditions. So
right,
you're driving your business into the ground. If you think about it, that's what performance marketing does. It identifies those 3% that may be willing to convert. It costs you a lot of money because the rest of the marketing funnel is just not done. It's completely skipped, right?
right, right.
And
It is true.
then
And there's
suddenly it's giving people very limited results. So the to answer your previous question, why are they not doing it? Because if I need to keep my job for 2 years, maybe I'll get away with terrible, uncredible lead numbers. And in this market, more and more people are just trying to keep their jobs, which is, people have different circumstances in life. So you do what you're supposed to do. But it is not smart and it's costing you double.
right,
There's another answer, which is why they're not doing it, because I think realistically, the barrier to doing that is really high because everybody who has a growth agency, for example, either you'd run the
right,
ads, performance ads in house, or you have a growth agency, right? And that growth agency does not do creative work. How do I know? I tried to hire one. I met with 7. 4 of them pitched to me. Their creative work was exactly the same as one another and the same as our competition. I could not believe my eyes because I came from the creative world and I knew that, well, you got to stand out. You can't have the same claim. They were not able to do positioning work. They were not able to define a brand. They were not able to write with a tone of voice. They didn't even try to define a tone of voice. It was all generic blah. And so your main provider or advisor, a growth agency, is not a credible supplier of creativity, right? It's also very
right,
hard to get creative people in house because they don't want to work in house. They don't want to do office politics. They don't want to.
right.
I just lost a earplug. Problem with
Yeah, no
the
problem.
Apple AirPods. Give me a sec.
Ye-
um, Let people catch their breath. um, so they don't have anywhere to buy this level of creativity, right?
Right,
So sometimes you might have a freelancer, but you need to know somebody from agency land, right? You can't go to a big agency because, I mean, the fees are extremely unrealistic there for any B2B startup, scale up, high growth, right? And that's why I decided to start my own thing because I
oh,
have
great.
the agency experience. So I know how to do
Right,
strategy in an afternoon instead of doing a strategy in 3 weeks or a month. I also know how to define the creative ideas and test them very quickly before we actually put any money into it, right? And that's purely because of my agency background early on in my career, and also my understanding of B2B, because I led a marketing department, so I know what hurts because it hurts, right? So
Right.
there's an element of that, and then the third part is the money aspect. But I'm gonna
Right.
park it because I've been talking for a long time, so I'm gonna drink some water.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Sure. So my another question is to you. Positioning is
Mm.
such a big deal in, especially in for the SaaS companies. So there are so competition. Like you have mentioned, a lot of competition is there. If you are running the performance ads, you will find the very few people, right, who are
Hmm.
really interested in your product, right? So
Hmm.
how exactly companies figure out and make themselves different, and exactly what are the biggest mistakes are companies committing right now when it comes
Hmm.
to
Very good question. Very good question. I like that you asked for biggest mistakes, because I'm just gonna like drop this bomb now, and then we can move on into productive conversation. Um, Demand generation is a scam. Everybody
yeah,
has a demand generation, or God forbid, demand creation function, like
yeah,
in their department, in their marketing department. And whilst you can educate the buyer about your product, or even a little bit about, like, this is not the problem you have, that is the problem that you have, you can moderately tweak their understanding of the situation that they're in right now. It's not like you can generate demand. And I might sound very provocative about it because I'm saying the entire industry is wrong. But one very funny, I like this anecdotal story of that, is there was an agency, a demand generation agency. I don't know, maybe you've seen it on LinkedIn, that unfortunately had to lay off their workers in the recession because, let's see, it failed to generate demand.
right,
Right? So you can't do it for yourself, and you're selling it to other people, which is
right,
why, like, the standard activities of, let's explain our product, do product marketing, do reference cases, do case studies, do webinars, those are all really good things, but they don't really shift the needle, and they're not really generating demand, because people don't even want to listen to your webinar. Like, they're not in the, why would I come and spend an hour with you at a webinar, right, if I have
yeah,
no need in the problem that you're solving? Like, what, like, who is so bad at their own time management, right? So
right,
it's just unrealistic. So for me, that's the biggest mistake. But if we're, it's not like we're suddenly gonna come to this global realization of this overnight, but demand generation needs to be replaced with brand building, brand awareness, you know um, any activity that's related to, we exist, we do this, and here's our differentiation, distinctiveness factor, USP, whichever word you decide to use for that thing, right? Because that's also how marketing actually works. And I think B2B thinks marketing is like, you need to experiment with everything. Marketing has existed
right,
for decades. There are academics with PhDs upon PhDs analyzing
yeah,
thousands of companies every year to figure out what works. We know exactly what's the best strategy to create a creative campaign that works. We know that. Nobody in B2B does. I know that because I read those papers, right? I've actually written one that, is submitted
yeah,
into the analysis that then tells you this is the strategy that works the best, right? We know how much time do you need to capture attention for in order to create a memory, because that's been studied. B2B marketers don't know. That's why they create expensive, or sometimes not very expensive, scrappy videos of B2B, I don't know, stories for 30 seconds that I scroll past, because if I'm not interested, I'm not interested in 30 seconds either, right? You
right,
have to you have to want me to keep watching, right?
right,
So they appeal to people who already know and like you, but they're very unlikely to sustain attention of the new people. What I'm saying is, basically, there's a bunch of studies that tell us what good creativity looks like, and nobody in B2B has read them. I can guarantee you none of the CMOs, but God bless CMOs. Sorry for bringing up God here. It's not in a religious way, but CMOs are tired and they're overwhelmed, and they do not have the time to sit with a scientific paper. And I absolutely
Right.
respect that. But it's a shame because it's not moving the industry forward. And so what we get instead is a bunch of category level claims. That's what I see a lot of, such as, oh, we are a marketing automation platform, just like five of our competitors. We are a marketing attribution platform. We are an HR analysis platform, right? We are a customer experience analysis platform. And instead, none of them are really communicating why they are the must have, why they should be the ones that are chosen over any of the competition. And so we're sat in this undifferentiated, indistinctive space lacking USPs. Because if you're actually looking at the roadmap, for one thing, I can tell you a story, one mistake I made, which is quite embarrassing. When I came into my head of marketing role, I was like, right,
Mhm.
let's find what's the edge. What's the USP? Let's dig through features, use cases. Are we targeting a different set of market customers in the market? No, okay, not very interesting there.
Right.
Let's map all the features according to our CPO's roadmap. Fantastic. Map all the competitive features. Fantastic. And you know what it is? Like, they're all the same. Everybody is doing the same thing in the same direction. So one might be ahead by a quarter or 2 quarters. But when you have a SaaS product with complex sales process, right? It will take you, what, 6, 9 months to make a decision a lot of the time. So the fact that
Right.
somebody's a quarter ahead is that the message will change during the process of sale as well. So you can't just like pin that onto a feature. You have to think about a claim that's unrelated to the details of your product. I know that sounds again like blasphemy, but if you want to build a brand and a message that sits there for a year or five, not a quarter, you have to latch it onto something that will stand the test of time. I
Right.
can tell you how a little bit later.
Yes. So my another question is like now companies are more feature centric when it comes to branding,
Mm,
especially in the SaaS branding, right? So
mm,
why do you think it is happening nowadays more, and they are not talking about the emotions? They are not connecting their product with the emotions, which can help them to create the brand. So
mm-hmm,
why
mm-hmm,
do you think it is happening right now? Like right now, it is easy to create creative ads, right? But they are not investing in creativity, right? So
mm-hmm.
my another question is this: why companies are more investing in the feature centric ads rather than the emotional or the connection centric ads? So why do you think why it is happening?
Well, let's do this. Let's put ourselves in their shoes, right? Given
Right,
the previous conversation where there is no supplier for this sort of process,
right,
right?
right,
You will do what you know. And a lot of people who are now at the top of the marketing game in B2B, the CMOs, they came through not the brand stream like I did. So I have sort of unique, weird perspective on that. And I'm going to own the fact that it's weird. That's fine. They came through performance ads, for example, right? They came at the time, exactly how you started this conversation. Well, Google launched ads, right?
right,
They came through to marketing at the time where that was the norm. What you put in copy into those ads mattered a little bit less. It's just you need to output content test, and then something will land, right? So
right,
they've been living with that mindset throughout their journey. That's what I believe, right? And it's not necessarily wrong. It definitely used to work sufficiently well when VCs were throwing around money and it was about, yeah, burn the money, but like get ahead, get further ahead than your competition. In that cycle, absolutely works well enough, right? To show the numbers because you want to show the numbers. But in the current cycle, I mean, come on, you just don't have the money. I've
right,
experienced coming into work and seeing my budget cut overnight,
right.
half in
It
half,
happens.
right? And then I'm like, okay, and then the rest is frozen. Fantastic. What are we going to do with that now? And I still have the same KPIs. Good luck with that, right? It's happening in the industry. It's not normal, but it is sort of a bit like the norm, and they don't know how to do emotional ads because they haven't been trained in that. In the same way where, I can do performance ads, but I did not spend these 70 years sat in the dashboards, right? Like I
Right.
know it, but that is not all I've been doing. And there are some people who have been doing it for the entirety of their career who will obviously have more depth in it than I ever will, right?
Right.
And so they're doing what they know. And again, let's put ourselves in their shoes. If I tell you, Jaguar, we are going to do emotional ads now, so write me a campaign, you don't know what to do.
Yeah, so I first need to know about the objective of the campaign, you know. So after
And
that, I can bring the idea, you know, with the help of their positioning statement, because it is really
that's right.
important how the companies are thinking, you know. So we have to think in the same way, so we can synchronize our campaign with that, you know. And
Yes,
for
100%.
doing that, I need to know the objective of the campaign, you know. So that is
And
really
you need a
important.
positioning. You called it really correctly,
Position,
right? The
right,
positioning. And there is so many people doing positioning work right now, but it's
right,
very much product, a lot of the time it's product out, right? So product
right, right.
marketers rather than
Yes,
outside in. Or if it's outside in, it's like we go after this segment and not this segment of our market. And
right,
realistically, if only 5% is shopping, do you think you have a say? Do you think it matters what segments you go after? No, you're just like
no,
wasting time on theory because that they're not going to
right,
buy suddenly if they're not buying. So you have to go broad, which
right,
is another law in marketing, which makes me question everybody who sells positioning work because great, now we have very good 5 websites with similar ish copy that doesn't actually shift the needle in terms of, well, probably does to an extent, right? But that it doesn't solve the main problem.
right,
So the positioning is the work that should make you from, oh, we're just another brand like everybody else, like we're invisible, we're in an array, we're in a lineup with the same claims, same category. It should shift you into like must have. Oh my god, I understand exactly why this product is there and why it's better than the entire category. And when I tell you that, you're like, well, Dana, that's really unrealistic. And I don't know, maybe you're not thinking that, but I think it's very natural to be like, sure, yeah, right.
right, yeah,
But if you do it at a brand level rather than a product level, it is realistic because nobody's doing it.
right.
I can
It is
show
correct.
you I can show you some of how I do it. So
Yeah,
you know,
please, please. Actually, I was. This was my next question. You know. So
yeah.
my next question is for SaaS companies just starting to think seriously about the branding. Uh, where should they should begin, and do you have any framework or any kind of go-to strategy with they need to adopt? So do you have that?
Yes, absolutely. So I will screen share this right now and let's hope that it works. It's a
Yeah,
workshop that I've created and I run this to for my customers because I don't want to do creative work for random creativity because it doesn't get bought and it's not right creative work. I want to do creative work when the strategy is set in stone. And usually it takes a long time. So I've, after
indeed.
doing it for, like you said, 17 years, I've simplified it to the core. So I can do it in an afternoon. And I will show you the exact framework. I've created some slides. So we will just like present those and I'll
Yes,
talk around them.
yes,
And if anybody's viewing, you can
yes.
screen grab them or you can then get in touch, add me on LinkedIn and I'll send you because
Sure.
I'll show you how you can do it yourself. But if you're
Right.
going to struggle,
Okay.
then you can tap me and I'll show you how we can do it together at a very reasonable price. I'm positioning this workshop as my loss leader. I don't know if it's a known term in SaaS, but it's like when shops charge very little for milk because they want you to buy the rest, right? I'm charging 500 euros or dollars for this one right now because 500, 2 zeros, because I want to get people on board. And after a few hours, when they see where the magic is and what the positioning is, and that they're excited, then they can come and do the creative work with me. That's absolutely no problem because we know it's going to be the right kind of creative work. Anyway, I've been talking for a
Right.
while, so Let me share. Let me share. Let me share. I think I just pressed the wrong thing. Share. Mm-mm-mm. Do you see this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can see over there. Yes,
you see the Canva thing, right? I'm gonna make it a little bit
right.
bigger. Can
So,
you see this now?
yeah, yeah, I can see
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
So
it is visible.
I'm gonna talk through a few slides with some
Yes,
examples, and then we can, I don't know, discuss it further, ask any questions, etc.
right, right,
So
right.
I call this workshop sort of invisible to must have, and it has, well, a few exercises, but fundamentally it's all part of one. And if you want to, you can steal it. So it starts with understanding why the hell people might want to do it. And this is for B2B marketers, obviously. And honestly, I think everybody can relate that there is a sense that they're doing all the right things, but they're getting nowhere. Um, there's never ending work, another webinar, more white paper, another piece of content. There is lukewarm leads, right? Because if you're, especially if you're sending cold emails, I mean, that's literally spam. It's not supposed to be particularly great. And then you have squeezed budgets now more than a few years ago, but it means that even if you're putting money into Google ads or LinkedIn ads that are performance driven, the ones that are for the lazy people who don't want to do the rest of the funnel, right? Then, of course,
Yeah,
it's probably not worth it. So, what the hell do you do? And here I'm explaining once again why this whole 5% rule really matters. If 5% are in market, then they're going to be taken by the ones who have the most money, your bigger competition. The Adobe, Salesforce, Google, the companies, small companies, or even departments related to the biggest players, because they will have the resources to write more content, outspend you, out call you. That's a
right.
losing battle, right? You're literally trying to do the impossible. And the good news is,
Mhm.
and we have not touched upon this stat today yet, but it is the most important stat, is that 81% of buyers pick the brand that's top of mind. So on the day that somebody needs a product, forget this demand generation, demand creation. One day somebody says, oh, this problem is big enough for me to try and pay someone to solve it. They're going to think, who did I hear about solving this problem or being in this space even? And in 81% of time, it's the first person, it's the first company that came to mind that they end up choosing. Yeah, they'll do some Googling and research and whatnot, but it's whoever was top of mind. And this is a study by Bain. Multiple different studies has come out actually in the last few months by different vendors, kind of always the same claim, the same percentage, the same statement. And so what do you do? How do you become front of mind? That's where the brand comes in. And I think that's the clever bit. Remember in the beginning we talked about what's the clever bit? It's
Mm,
you need to act like a
mm,
challenger brand. And maybe some people have heard about this phrase before, some might have not, but I can explain very quickly how it works. So
mm,
challenger brand is a common business term, but I think it's best described in this book that's on the left called Eating the Big Fish. It's how challenger brands compete against, the biggest players in the market. It's not new. It was written a few decades ago, but it still stands because what it says is you take the mindset that you're in usually, do the same stuff and something good will happen. And you flip the script. You challenge the norms of the market, which is what this workshop is all about. And it's not one book. It's it's a bunch of books. I've picked the best one that relates to marketing, but also here are some screen grabs about agencies, the best agencies on the planet. I've worked in three of them: TBWA, Havas, and DDB. They keep winning these titles, Agency of the Year. Every now and then, somebody does. And
right.
let me tell you, they all use this framework, not the one I'm about
Mm,
to share, but a version of this. They call it in different words, they put a trademarked thing above them, but it's always the same thing that they recommend to their clients. Look at the norms of the market and flip them. So my workshop is based on a summary of all of these things that doesn't take a month to deliver or even 2 weeks to deliver, which what an agency wants to charge you to do proper research, first-hand quotes, run focus groups, interviews, I've done it all, as an employee of an agency, but I know a way to do it even quicker, which is why it's accessible for small companies. So the next slide will show you the start, the 3 steps. 3 steps. First one is really obvious: research the industry, right? If you're going to undermine the norm and challenge the norms of the industry, you need to understand the industry. And a lot of this is stuff that people already know. What are your competitors claiming? Probably the same thing as you. How is the industry media covering? This is where it gets interesting. Is the media calling out the fact that this is sometimes a terrible deal, or this is a suspiciously strange way to do things, or they're selling you what you don't actually need? Is the media calling out? Maybe, maybe not. But this is where it gets interesting. And what really bugs the audience? Some people will call it pain points, but you know what? Every SaaS company I've ever met had a list of pain points. The marketing director was like, here's what we're targeting, and all of our copy on the website is linked to those pain points. But guess what? The competition is doing exactly the same thing. They interviewed a similar set of customers and came up with the same set of pain points. It's not particularly unique in any kind of way. This is not how you differentiate. So I
Right.
try to find what really bugs the audience in a more provocative way. I'll show you. Instead of doing a bunch of interviews, I look at a cultural level of what bugs the audience. I don't know if this is big enough. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, you
Yeah.
can. Um, I look at how the audience tells us about what bugs them. So what I do is image search on Google, ICP job title, HR director, chief technology officer, chief supply chain officer, chief, or I don't know, HR director, whatever, plus the word meme. Because you know what? When something hurts, people use humor to deal with it, don't we? Right?
Yes.
So people
Oh,
already tell us exactly what hurts and is worth talking about and what will attract their attention. So here's an example for an, I don't think you can see it actually particularly well, but I'll give you this one. This is an
mm,
example of memes related to an HR, right? Where you have employees saying, I actually don't care about my job, I just want to stay in it. And you have like I don't want goals for next year. My goal next year is to leave this company, right? And you have a meme
actually,
here
the
about
it is not visible. It is not visible to us.
no, but I'll tell you stories so you can
Mm.
see.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can listen, right? Or
Imagine. Yeah.
HR is telling you like, yeah, we're gonna hire for remote roles, and then you end up and it's full time in office. So the conclusion from these is that corporate culture is kind of people lying to one another, right? Which is very
Right.
awkward. You don't want to admit to that, but it's
Mhm.
ridiculous,
It is.
right? And
Yeah.
this is a recent project I had. It was with a team that works with AI, machine learning, language learning models, extremely technical. So obviously they're struggling a little bit with positioning, which is how they came to me. And one of the early observations I had after 5 minutes is it seems like AI projects often fail right at the start because somebody comes with this big dream, but they don't actually understand what it takes to get there, right? So
Right.
yeah, a chief technology officer might be commissioned to do something with AI, but they don't even know what's realistically possible, and they need a partner that can start from the start. So I within 5-10 minutes, I can figure out sort of what really hurts on the market based on what the audience is actually talking about. And so why do we do that? Because we need to identify industry norms, the rules the market plays by, the assumptions that guide the market, and really call out the norms that are anything but normal. Like this is, we're all accepting it, but it's weird. So I'll show you what that looks like because it's a bit too conceptual without an example. So um, this is a
Not
customer
at
that I
all.
had. Can you see?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Uh,
can see that. But
yep. Oh,
yeah.
you can't read it.
Yeah. I can't read it because
Okay, but I'll
it
read
is
it for you.
too small. You know.
I can't make it bigger. Oh, yes, I can. Can you see that?
Yeah. I can see that. Now it is
Okay,
visible. Yeah. I can see that.
okay. So I had a client who was creating a product for startup founders. It's an amazing online tool that
Hmm.
allows them to figure out how much runway they actually have based on some of the specific metrics before it's too late to change course. So it pulls a bunch of information across industry, competition, even current prices for, let's say, ads, right? In order to write projections that are rooted in a lot of detail. And he was like, well, I don't even know how to market it to startup founders because I don't want them to see it as just another framework. And I was like, right, well, we need to position you as a must have. So let's think about startup founders. What are their norms? And a lot of the time, and I guess, I hope you will agree that you often have people who know how to build a product. They're techies,
Right.
they're passionate, or they're experts in this area. So they're passionate about the product, right?
Right.
But it's very rare that you have a startup
Business.
founder that actually knows how to build a business. That's why
It
at
is
some
true.
level of the journey, huh?
Yeah, it is true. It is true. It is absolutely true. They know everything about the product and how to build the product, but they don't know how to build a business, and they are
Right.
struggling. And most of the founders and the like CEOs especially who are just starting the business and they are struggling with this. They don't know how to build the business. It is true.
Exactly, right? And that's why at some point you have top management changes, let's leave those words, that
Right.
are asked of by VCs because you need a CEO who can CEO, right? With those skill sets.
Right.
So that's one norm. That's one norm, that you have a bunch of these people and not a lot of this skill set. And another
Right.
norm, I put it on here, is a lot of startup founders are powered by passion, hope, hustle culture. If you see what I mean, this
Right.
myth of, if I'm doing the right thing and therefore I will succeed somehow, right? And
Right.
very few that have the financial education or the prior exposure to business at this scale or in this way of working, that is more powered by foresight and pre-tested. He said these are second, third time founders, right? Who've already seen how the market actually works and what they need to watch out for. But there's obviously very few of them. So that's how we arrived at these two norms of being a startup founder: this knowledge gap and this sort of maybe experience gap or mindset gap. What do we do with
Right.
that? Well, we then decide, how do we undermine these industry norms? It's really helpful for us to know what's wrong because we can figure out how to position ourselves as the right thing, right? So we need to call
Right.
out what's unhelpful, and we just found out what's unhelpful, right? We need to position our offering as the only one challenging the norms, which is very easy because most of your competitors haven't done this exercise, and then
Right.
become the must have. And I'll give you an example. In case of this, if if we put this solution here, then it really challenges industry norms, right? If we say this is a
Yeah.
solution that
Yeah. It
now
is.
helps you build a business,
Right.
not a
To build.
product, right?
Right.
And don't just rely on hope or passion or whatever. We know how to crunch the numbers so that you don't lose your startup by this time next year, right? So we
Right.
found this space, and then we call it something. It's a line that we create, which is the positioning line, and then it's underpinned by whatever features, functionalities, benefits of the product that one might have. So you can do a little messaging hierarchy. But typically, the most important thing to get is what's at the top of this messaging hierarchy. And so this product, for example, helps a founder see the full picture, build a business, not build a product, and actually be powered by numbers, experience, best practice, whatever it may be, right? So once
Right.
you put your product here, it becomes instantly unique. It becomes a total differentiator because none of the other solutions that are comparable or even wider solutions in your niche actually leverage any of these truths. Do you see what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I
So
have
now,
another example on
yeah,
it, but
it,
let's talk. If you have questions, I think it's useful maybe for the viewers also to tear it apart a little bit. So ask me the questions.
yeah, actually, right now I don't have any question over this because everything is clear and like uh, the must-have solution which you have provided, that is the positioning which like must-have. It is pretty clear. Like if you are in this position, you are building your business and you are exactly like providing the solution, right?
Yeah,
So it is. yeah, so it is really good, you know.
I'll give you
And
another
but
example. So no, sorry, go
yeah,
on, go on.
yeah, yeah. So I have completed. Yeah, go on.
I think maybe I have another example here, which is different and maybe more, maybe less relatable. We'll see. But I
Hmm.
think the more I can like give examples, the better, because otherwise, such phrases are understand industry norms and undermine them. They just sound extremely vague, right? And you don't know what to do with that, which
Right,
I'll give you a secret is exactly on purpose, right? That's what ad agencies do to sound sophisticated and charge more money. Yeah,
right,
that's what McKinsey does too. So, but I'm trying to simplify it. So another example I have is about AI, right? Like AI is everywhere. So how do
right,
you stand out in that space where everybody's shouting off the rooftops? And is I think yeah. Oh, sorry, shouldn't have been. Yeah, no, that's right. Here are the norms that I identified here. Um,
right,
Everybody's talking about things that might happen someday, like, ooh, unleash the power of AI, right? In the future,
right,
right? Like, ooh, it's going to change everything. Those are all the headlines, not just by the vendors, but like by the media, right? We're thinking about what will
right,
happen and how it will change humanity. But very few are actually talking about what's happening today. Like, today, you can build this, you can make this tangible change to your business, right? And this is
right,
where I lucked out because the customer that came to me, they said, well, we can, whatever is needed, we can create a proof of concept in 2 weeks because we have the systems and models that allow us to cater to the client's needs very fast before they sign up for a long-term engagement, right? So that's very fresh, that's
right,
very new. Instead of AI someday to AI today. And yes, I use very simple words in these green squares very much on purpose because it's only when you strip it down to a simple word that you really understand the simplicity of it, right? It's very easy to hide
right,
behind the
right,
buzzwords. And if you hide behind the buzzwords, you're not going to get anywhere, right? And
right,
the other norm is um, this one. Everybody's talking, right? We can write a 30-page report. We can do a webinar about the future of AI. Everybody's sort of trying to be productive and creating a sense of we're dabbling with it, right? We're doing stuff.
right,
But there is a handful of companies that actually get stuff done. So doing stuff and getting stuff done, where like my code is in production and it drove some impact, right? There is a lot of smoke
right,
and mirrors and not enough precision. And that's why we figured out this is the norm, the bad space to play. So we don't want to do that.
right,
We can play here, right? Because suddenly you can
right. Yeah,
get stuff done and they have the proof points to credibly claim that. If they didn't, I would have pushed them to create them during our engagement and wouldn't let them out without it. But
right.
then
Yeah,
we were able to position it as a must have with this statement, right? So if you think you are a chief
it is.
technology officer and you're told, hey, do something with AI by your CEO, by your employees, and you're like, I don't even know where to get started, how much it costs, what's the right use case. Everybody's bombarding me with information, but I don't know which one to latch onto and who to trust. Then this team, they resolve it by saying, get AI done already, right? Like, come on, stop procrastinating. We get you. Yes, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, but come with us. And then based on that, we wrote some ad campaigns that are going live very shortly and will, be memorable because nobody talks in this punchy way. So that's kind of what I
Right. It
wanted
is
to
so.
show.
Oh, great, great. So it is really helpful for us. And right now, like I have seen the perspective which you have bring, like it is really good. So my another question with this, with so much happening in tech or AI, you were already talking about this. So what do
Yeah,
you think?
that's
What
right.
will be? Yeah. So what will be the impact on branding in coming future? What can you see right now?
Very good
What is
question.
about to change?
And a very good bridge to the case study. Listen, I sort of I'll answer it as a story with personal experience, and then I'll link it to what I think it means for the wider world. I think AI makes life a lot easier because a bunch of stuff we do during the days is a bit boring. Proofread my email, or
Right.
do some find me sources that claim X or proves argument for and against. I use it for that sort of stuff just to stimulate my brain a little bit faster. And so AI can be magic. Um, but what we are seeing in marketing is marketers want a good hack. And so what they do is use AI for content. And there is a reason
Right.
why generative AI is generative, which means it takes stuff from the past that's already happened
Right.
and it reshuffles it to give you an output. So if I ever ask AI to write a piece of copy for me, it throws
Right.
me a sentence, 80% of which is buzzwords. And I think you will
Right.
understand, right? This is just
Yeah.
how it is, because
Yeah. Understood.
and us humans, we see buzzwords, we don't read them. We're like, oh, another one of those, right? Because
Right.
nothing stands out. You're bombarded with it every day of the week, right? At work, it's all
Right.
buzzwords. So the only thing that stands out is lack of buzzwords, which means
Right.
that you have to sort of humanize AI in some kind of way. And so far, I've failed. It gives me good ideas for copy, or sometimes a new direction, which was, oh, could be a question. I thought it's a statement, but this could be a provocative question instead. Very clever. I might use that. But it can't write like a human, because that's what AI hasn't
Yeah.
gotten yet, right? The real you, your experience and my experience, my joke, my mannerisms, my
Right.
self-deprecating humor, my awkwardness, which is what makes
True.
people appealing to one another, right? Like,
Right.
this
Right.
is me, take it or leave it. I'm a little bit weird, right? This is how we connect. And it's the same with
Right.
brands, because brands are emotional. There's so many corporates that we have brand guidelines, and our mission, vision, values are do everything good, do nothing bad, and please our stakeholders, right? It could be McDonald's, it
Right.
could be Enron, right? But no,
Right.
it's a big company, which means absolutely nothing. It's a front. It's not close to the
Right.
people. It's not real. It's not emotional. It agrees. An AirPod keeps
Right. It is true.
Um, so what we need to do as humans, as marketers, is stand out. And maybe at some point AI was a way to stand out because you could produce sheer volume of content. But that's not the case anymore. I
Right.
don't know if you've seen it, but if you go on LinkedIn, you can see a post written by AI, and the comments on this post are also written by AI.
Right. It is true. It is true. It is happening. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
like,
can
are you
see and like
serious right
I'm
now?
experiencing that. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's even more important. I'm now tying it back to the argument of brand and what's the future, what does it mean for the future of brand, is that it's even more important to have a personality, to have a point of view that's written without buzzwords like get AI done already, or see the full picture instead of analyze 1,000 data points to optimize the performance of your startup and the blah blah blah, right? You have to use human language. I've done work on that before. HR company had a line of something along the lines of optimize employee performance for commercial success, which is as memorable as you think it is. And I wrote, turn your workforce into a true force, right?
Oh.
It says the same thing actually, but it's short, it's memorable, and it tells you that there's probably a gap and we can close that gap. Yeah. So good
Yeah.
copywriting has nothing to do with AI. It has to do with skill set, life experience, and yeah, history of copywriting.
It's true. It is true. It is
Vision,
true.
right? And storytelling is much more interesting when it's personal. And so I would say it's double as important to work on brand as a human.
Right.
People also say, well, AI. I used AI. I'm currently finishing my website, and I used AI to give me a picture of a generic B2B ad on LinkedIn, which was a dude sat with a laptop with a button, download this free report. AI did an excellent piece of work designing a generic B2B ad, which tells me that this is likely what it's going to give me if I ask it to design me a B2B ad, right? So it's
Right.
not going to stand out. Nobody's going to click on it. Nobody's going to notice it, right? So if you are able to lead with different visuals, different idea, and different copy, that's when you grab attention. So use
Right.
AI for the right things, but don't use it for conceptual thinking. Don't use it for provocation because it doesn't know what's provocative, right? Or sometimes it's a
Right.
bit
Right.
rude.
It is so.
Sometimes it's like you're provocative, but you're also really mean.
Right.
So use AI for the right stuff, but that stuff is not conceptual thinking, idea, or brand building, honestly.
Oh, yeah. So you are saying that future will be in the hand of humans, but AI can help humans, right,
Well,
to
I
build a
can't
brand.
for the brand specifically. Yeah, I don't know who has the future of humanity. I'm not the person to make a statement about
Yeah,
that. But when it comes to marketing, use AI to, I don't know, analyze your data, find early ideas,
it's
refine
really
copy,
helpful. Yeah.
maybe. I sometimes critique AI and I end up going somewhere. But
Yeah.
the big idea is yours and yours alone, and you need a human. And
Yeah.
let me finish with this. We think in the age
Right.
of AI that humans are expensive, right?
Yeah, that's true. The creative one.
Right? But in
Yeah.
reality, you just need to find a human who's done it for 17 years because they can do it in hours and not in months. So
Right.
that's where I'm trying to play because my big objective is to have more B2B brands actually become brands rather than wallpaper. And if you come to me with logistics, I will do this exercise and find something damn exciting about logistics for you. Because I've
Great.
done it for
Great.
HR, customer experience, digital transformation, obviously marketing technology, accounting. Mm.
Yeah. I've
So
seen the work.
there is a way. So you just need to, come in,
Right.
spend a few hours, and you'll get an output that's exciting for you, your team, your CEO, and the people who work for
Right, right. So thank you so much, Diana, for this like fabulous podcast, and it is very knowledgeable and it is
you.
full of the knowledge and everything is so like in synchronization way. Everything like it is so understandable. Like everyone can easily understand this approach, and everyone can implement this branding sort of things which can
Mhm.
relate to human, and this is the approach which every brand should adopt. So it is really good to have you. Thank you so much, Diana.
Thank you.
I will help you to grow your own portfolio. So thank you so much. Thank you again. Bye bye.
Really appreciate the chat. I hope whoever is listening enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Add me on LinkedIn. I have a
everyone.
free
Sure.
content that I update every week, newsletter that I publish every month called B2B that made me feel things. If you want inspiration for good B2B marketing, that's where you go. And DM me if you want some advice or if you want to work together. Take
Yeah,
care.
she is really amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you again. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.
Yeah. Yeah.